What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode number 4 of the Tailgate Report. We are back here for another week, guys, and it was an awesome week, awesome weekend in the sports world. A whole bunch of action going on, a whole bunch of fun stuff to kind of recover and go over here today. I gotta be honest, this one is probably going to be a little bit shorter than some of the past episodes, and that's kind of simply just mainly because NFL, it's winding down, guys. It's getting to that point of the year where the season is coming to a close. We are fast approaching Super Bowl Sunday, one of my favorite days of the entire year in the sports realm. Just a great time to get together with some of the family, some of the friends, get some good food, and hopefully watch a really good football game that I gotta be honest, I don't know if I can say the last thing I said there's gonna be true. But we're going to jump into that here very shortly on this week's episode of the Tailgate Report. I hope you guys all have had a great week. Thank you for anybody that has tuned in to the previous 3 episodes. Pretty crazy. We're already on episode 4. Pretty awesome stuff. And I just want to say that I've had an absolute blast making these. It's been a lot of fun. And hopefully for any of you guys out there who have enjoyed watching it, it's been fun for you guys as well. Now, with all of that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will hop into the first recap game of the playoffs this weekend. And that was the Patriots versus the Broncos, ladies and gentlemen. And, I kind of called this game. I knew the Patriots were probably going to win this game, mainly because Bo Nix going down. Losing Bo Nix was massive to help the Patriots. And I got to be honest, the way this game was, granted, the weather conditions were not very ideal towards the end, but granted, I think they have Bo Nix. They win this football game. Drake May had 86 yards passing. He did have 65 yards rushing. Ramondre Stevenson put up 71 yards rushing. But just not a lot going on, man. Mac Hollins was the big dog for the receiving core with 2 catches for 51 yards. And then kind of across the board here, the biggest thing that you guys are going to really notice is look at these kicking stats. Boriegas was 1 for 3 and Will Lutz was 0 for 2. And if you look at the score, 10-7, those missed kicks, like whether you're a Patriots kicker or a Broncos kicker, like that really was the difference maker in this football game. So just, pretty crazy to see, pretty slow game, pretty boring game, if I'm going to be completely honest. So, I don't really know what to say about that. I wasn't really expecting much. And unfortunately, it was a pretty boring game. And that all being said, Jared Stidham came in, never played this season, came in, threw 131 yards, did throw a touchdown, which is cool to see, man. Like whether or not he's the guy, he's not a great quarterback. Like nonetheless, it was really fun to, be able to see that. So, he had a pick, he had a touchdown, outplayed Drake May in terms of passing, which is pretty crazy. RJ Harvey, nothing special, 37 yards on the ground rushing, didn't do anything too crazy either. What are you going to say? The weather's kind of rough and it was kind of a boring game, man. There's really no other way to kind of put it. It was pretty just a simply boring game. And Marvin Mims, once again, had a pretty good week here in the playoffs. A guy who really was not doing a whole heck of a lot, ended up kind of having a pretty darn good playoffs, man. He had a couple big games, really did some stuff when they needed him to. And then really just the kicker, once again, was Will Lutz missing 2 field goals, man. Maybe miss 1, but you miss 2. Now you're not even given an opportunity to play on, and your team's going home. So kind of crazy to see, but that's the way the tide turns. So we do jump into the Seahawks-Rams game, as we kind of all, I'm sure, imagined a lot better of a football game here, a lot more competitive, a pretty fun, enjoyable game to watch. 2 really good opponents, man. 2 great quarterback matchups as well. Really good season out of both teams, really good season out of both quarterbacks, and they didn't let that disappoint in the playoffs either. Matt Stafford, hell of a game, man. 374 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Massive game for him. He played great. Darnold, 346 and 3. Great game out of Darnold. And, coming off a game where Darnold threw about 150, didn't really do much, came out and put up arguably maybe one of the best stat lines of his career and the biggest game of his career. So really cool to see, man. Being a Minnesota Vikings fan, it's heartbreaking that we don't have Darnold on the team after the way he played and has continued to play. But nonetheless, to see him make it to the Super Bowl and, hopefully win it, that's awesome, man. I'm happy for the guy. He deserves it. He has shown these last 2 seasons why he got paid the way he did. Blake Corum, 55 yards on the ground, outrushing Kyron Williams, and then Kenneth Walker had 62 and a touchdown. Once again, as you can imagine, with all of the passing yards that were thrown during these games, naturally, the receivers had a heck of a time as well. And Puka Nacua, doing everything that Puka Nacua does, had 9 catches for 165 yards and a touchdown. So amazing game, literally like crazy stat line. Ironically, we jump right across the board and you got JSN basically matching him at 10 catches for 153 yards and a touchdown. So not only did the quarterbacks show, but both WR1s definitely showed up as well. And, Devontae Adams had a great game as well, 4 catches for 89 and a touchdown. And then Cooper Kupp, man, against his old team in a big game, guy comes out, has 4 catches, 36 yards and a touchdown. Really cool to see against his old team, old guy that was throwing him the ball. And Cooper Kupp is back in the Super Bowl with an opportunity to potentially win number 2. So really good game, man. Really fun game to watch. Nothing but, good things to say about it. Like when you think of playoff football, man, like this was a game where I was like, dude, this is what we want to see. It really is. And, it's just really fun to watch games like this, and you're watching some incredible talent and a couple guys, Matt Stafford, man, who knows how many years he's got left in the tank. So pretty cool to see nonetheless. And with all that being said, guys, that is it for football this week. We are at that point of the year where the games are coming down to the wire. There's not much left to really talk about. And really the only thing to touch on is the Super Bowl. And, in my opinion, Seahawks, Patriots, I have Seattle taking home the Super Bowl pretty handedly. I just think that Drake May, personally, my opinion, I think Drake May is one of the most overhyped quarterbacks in the NFL. He's a good player. He is a good quarterback. I don't think he is that caliber of quarterback that you're seeing out of some of these other guys like Matt Stafford, like Josh Allen, and, just kind of the way they've played in the playoffs. Like they haven't impressed me that much. And I think coming off of another big win for Seattle, they've been just killing it all season, playing great, huge playoffs. Darnold comes off his best game. JSN has a massive game. They have a ton of momentum where the Patriots really just don't. They just really don't. So I think going into that Super Bowl game, I really think that Seattle is going to do some damage early on. And in my opinion, I think it's going to be a pretty explosive win. Nonetheless, we have nothing but the final game to show, and we're gonna have to stick here, hold on, and see exactly how it all plays out. But that all being said, guys, as you kind of can imagine, the Seahawks are favored in the Super Bowl. Nonetheless, doesn't really shock anybody, I would say. And if you really think about it, the just the competitiveness of these last 2 games, it's been pretty night and day. But the game's going to be played 6:30 on Sunday, February 8th at Levi's Stadium in California. So going to be a super fun game nonetheless. I will absolutely be tuning in with some awesome Super Bowl snacks, and I would hope so from all of you guys as well. Jumping into a couple other of the big headlines from the football world, as we've continuously gone on this coaching carousel over the last few weeks. A couple other big ones here. So Todd Monken has signed to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. OC out of Baltimore, was with them for some pretty good seasons over there. Looking to head over now to the Browns, where they have some young talent, man. They got Jerry Jeudy at receiver still. They got Harold Fannin. They got, Quinshon Judkins, and they got Shadur Sanders. They've got a lot of young guys there on the offensive side of things. So bringing an OC over who's had a pretty good offense, done some good things there, bringing him over now for the Browns might be a good play. And we're really just going to kind of have to wait and see how that all plays out for them. Now, down on the bottom there, kind of a big one, kind of an interesting one, is Joe Brady, actually, the OC for the Buffalo Bills, was promoted up to the head coach now of the Buffalo Bills. And obviously Joe Brady, Josh Allen, they've been doing their thing for the last however many years now. So kind of an interesting play, not one that you always see, but nonetheless, I think it could be something good. I think getting a head coach that is an OC, very offensive-minded quarterback, maybe they'll go out. Maybe they will go and get some wide receiver help for him, because Josh Allen just doesn't have the WR help that he needs. And that's something that just, you could see it in the playoffs. Just the chemistry was not there. It was something they were very much lacking on. So hopefully they can go out and make some moves that way and potentially get the actual job done one of these upcoming seasons. Now, one that I didn't have on here that is kind of a crazy one is Brian Daboll has been discussing quite a bit with the Tennessee Titans as well as the Raiders, I believe. So quite a bit going on there with him. He's either going to be the OC of the Titans under Robert Saleh or the head coach of the Raiders. Both options for him, I think, would be good. He could be the OC with the young offense over in Tennessee. Maybe that's what they need to get the show on the road. Who the heck knows? I personally like Brian Daboll, so I would like to see him get another good chance at a head coaching job. But, I don't know if the Raiders is the one for him. Maybe the OC for the Tennessee Titans might be a better play. But we shall wait and see on that one. Now, jumping over to the kind of the big dog one here, which is Mike McCarthy. So Mike McCarthy has accepted the role in Pittsburgh to be the new head coach of the Steelers. Only the fourth Steeler head coach in, I want to say it's around 60 years. It's some crazy stat line like that, which is just wild if you really think about how often coaches do get fired in this league. So him being only number 4 is a pretty crazy step and a pretty big one for him as well. And just with a guy like Mike McCarthy, because he has been in the league so long, I did want to just get a couple stats for him. So he has coached 18 years in the NFL, most of that being with the Green Bay Packers, won a Super Bowl in 2010. Obviously, he was there with Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers was the best quarterback in the NFL for a long time. Has a 6.08 win percentage, pretty solid coach. 5 years in Dallas, that's really where he kind of started to falter. His years in Green Bay, though, man, he was great. The team was great. They were a dynasty, man. They really were. They were what the modern day Chiefs were back in those late 2000s, early 2010s. Obviously, Mike McCarthy going to the Steelers. Does that mean Aaron Rodgers comes back for another ride with Mike? Who the heck knows? There's a lot to be kind of thought on there. We're going to just have to wait and see. But, I do think it's probably a good move for the Steelers, getting a guy who is pretty experienced. He's been with a lot of different football teams in a lot of different, situations. So I think it could be good for them. We're going to have to kind of just see how that all plays out. So apologize in advance for this horrible bracket. I got to be honest, I didn't realize that this was this blurry zoomed in. So for you guys that are like me and can barely understand what's going on here, really simply, guys, this is just the Super Bowl bracket. We're not playing any guessing games here. We know who's in it, Seattle and New England, and I think I made my point very clear. I'm going Seattle in this one. I think it's going to be an awesome game. Jumping into golf, guys. Golf was awesome last week, man. It was the first kind of tournament where we saw a lot of big name faces back in action here, and not to be shocked whatsoever, Scottie Scheffler came home with the win at the American Express Open. Not surprising. Scottie Scheffler's been the guy for however many years now. The dude's just playing unreal golf. One thing kind of cool to touch on really quick revolving around that tournament was we did see Blades Brown, the 18-year-old kid who finally is kind of playing in some tour events, and he looked really good. He was actually tied for first place after round 2, I believe. Kind of faltered a little bit in those last couple of rounds. Didn't end up getting the job done, but an awesome first opening, golf experience for the kid. And he's so dang young, so talented. It's going to be fun to watch that guy over the course of his career. Leading on into this coming week, we have the Farmers Insurance Open, which actually will be starting up tomorrow, Thursday. I'm recording this on Wednesday. Now, last year, we saw Harris English get the win there. Harris English had a great golf season last year. We will see if he's going to be able to try to repeat what he had going on last year. And then taking a peek at some of the odds favorites for this week's tournament. We got Xander Schauffele, who is a heck of a golfer. He is playing in his first tournament of the season, I believe, at plus 1,300. He is the favorite to win. We got Aberg back at plus 1,700, Cantley at plus 19. And then my personal pick to win this year's tournament is Cameron Young at plus 2,200. Cam Young coming off an incredible golf season as well. Really looking to keep his flow stay going with that. I think it's going to be a really good year for him, and I'm hoping he can have a great week this week, getting the job done early for them. One thing kind of cool to just note, Brooks Koepka is actually back playing his first PGA Tour event this week at that Farmers Insurance Open. After kind of going through that whole live golf situation, he is back on the PGA Tour. I personally am pumped about that. I do kind of enjoy watching Brooks Koepka, his attitude. Some folks don't like it. I kind of am a fan of it. He's just a very realistic personality dude. So having him back on the tour, I think, is going to make a lot of things a lot better. He's at plus 6,000. I'm not going to take him. I don't think he's winning this tournament, but nonetheless, it'd be cool to have him come back and do all right for the squad. But that kind of wraps up golf. Hopping in now to the Australian Open. And once again, I apologize for these photos, guys. It can be a pain in the butt to try to get some accurate photos that are exactly what I want to have represented. And I didn't want to draw out an entire bracket myself. So I do have some photos here, but real simply put, guys, we are in the quarterfinals of the Aussie Open, and it's been a really enjoyable tournament. There's been a lot of big upsets. There's been a lot of fun games, and there's been a lot of crazy games, man. So if we take a peek, starting off, we had Alcaraz played Alcaraz played de Minaur, and shockingly, Alcaraz won in straight sets. De Minaur had a great tournament, though. He had a lot of really good wins, played great, but when it came down to it, taking on the best player in the world, man, he got beat pretty handedly there in straight sets. Moving on to Alexander Zverev and Lerner Tien. Lerner Tien had, once again, an incredible tournament. He has played great every time I've watched him play. He beat Medvedev pretty handedly and got matched up with Zverev, who, Zverev is like the most underrated, overrated player in tennis, in my opinion. Like, he just never really gets the job done, but he is always in the quarters and always in the semis. Like, he's just such a consistently good player. And, it kind of showed that Tien's great, but he still has some learning to do. Zverev beat him in 4 sets after Tien won the second set, and then Zverev ended up taking the third pretty handedly, and then had a pretty entertaining 4th set, but was nonetheless able to kind of get it all done. Leading into Musetti and Djokovic. Now, this is kind of the biggest one to touch on here, because Musetti was absolutely working Djokovic the first 2 games. He ended up winning 6-4 first set, 6-3 second set, absolutely working the ball, feeling great, playing great. Ends up actually hurting something in his upper right leg, from what I have heard, and ended up having to retire in the 3rd set to Djokovic after being down already by 2. Djokovic once again moves on to the semifinals. Djokovic, I got to be honest, I'm a fan of Djokovic, but he has had this tournament really handed to him. He had a walkover in his last matchup, gets completely lucky on this situation, moving him into the semis. Don't get me wrong, it's great. I love Djokovic. Djokovic versus Sinner is going to be an incredible matchup, but nonetheless, it is one that I think Musetti, very much deserved to have. And then Ben Shelton versus Sinner once again. Sinner has just showed again. Sinner is the number 2, number 1, depending on who you ask. Him and Alcaraz are just in flow state, man. They're just such good players. Shelton's been playing great. He's been getting better every single year. But once again, Sinner takes him in straight sets. That all being said, we have Sinner versus Djokovic in the semis. And then we have Alcaraz versus Zverev. And I don't think it's to anybody's surprise that we're going to have ourselves an Alcaraz versus Sinner matchup in the finals, to my expectations. And I'm going to go with Alcaraz winning this one. Alcaraz has been playing great. Sinner has had a couple moments where, he's had some falters a little bit. Spirzy, I believe his name is Elliot Spizzeri. He had a really good thing going against Sinner, and then Sinner kind of got lucked out with a couple of different medical timeouts and all of the above, and was able to kind of get the job done. But I really do think that Alcaraz is going to win this year's Australian Open. And one cool thing to touch on really quickly is that I believe with Novak's current win status, he now has the most wins in Australian Open tennis history, passing Roger Federer. Pretty awesome. Awesome to see. The dude's a legend. Best of it to ever really do it. Hopping on over to the women's side of things, we had Sabalenka taking on the very young American Eva Hovic, who has played a great tournament, took down Paulini, had a really awesome tournament, man, nonetheless. But I think she finally met her match and had to obviously go against somebody who is, time and time again, been kind of the best in the league. And Sabalenka was pretty easy to beat her, 6-3, 6-0. But great tournament for Hovic, big things for her in the future. Excited to see where she goes next. The biggest one that kind of shocked me was Coco Gauff getting, honestly, absolutely bodied by Svitolina. 6-1, 6-2 straight sets. Svitolina played her butt off. Coco just made some mistakes, didn't play great. And Svitolina moves on. Heading over to the other side of things, Rybakina ended up taking down Swiatek, which kind of surprised, kind of not. Rybakina, I kind of had a feeling was going to potentially maybe actually win this tournament. So she just played great. She won 7-5, 6-1. Second set, absolutely just working. Swiatek. So Rybakina, great job. Moving on to the semis as well. Taking on Jessica Pegula. The battle of the Americans, Pegula, Anisimova. First one, Pegula just basically took her right to her, 6-2. Ended up having a more interesting second set, but nonetheless, Pegula got it done in straight. Moving on, Pegula takes on Rybakina, and Svitolina takes on Sabalenka. Now, personal predictions here, Sabalenka versus Rybakina, and I'm going to go with Rybakina taking it all. Gonna be a really fun wrap up to the Australian Open. It's been an incredible tournament. It seems like the fan interaction has only grown from the previous years. I'm a big fan of tennis, man. It's just starting to really grow on me. It's really enjoyable. I have had a lot of fun with it. And really, guys, that is kind of it for this week's episode. There's just been, with football winding down, the things are kind of dwindling that I do enjoy to cover. That all being said, some really cool things. F1 is opening up very soon. I did watch a little bit of their Barcelona testing. Super cool to see Audi making their first appearance. I think that is freaking awesome. And then obviously more so than that, Cadillac, man. Cadillac made their first appearance. So really cool to see a couple of new teams. The liveries looked freaking sick. I am super pumped for this season. I think with Cadillac having a lot of experience with Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez behind the wheel, it's going to be a fun season, man. I'm really looking forward to it. And then the biggest one here is the baseball season. And we are not overly far away at this point, guys. We are about a month, a little bit over away from baseball season taking off. I'm super excited for this season. As you guys know, I'm a Minnesota sports fan, Minnesota Twins, Minnesota Vikings. So big things hopefully for Minnesota this year. Got a lot of young talent. Hopefully we make a couple more moves before the season starts and we can kind of have a little bit of a redemption year after last year, because last year was not very fun to watch. So I'm hoping for a little bit more of a fun season this year. But guys, nonetheless, that is it for this week's episode of the Tailgate Report. I appreciate anybody that has popped in here, anybody who's tuned in, especially over the last couple of weeks. But even if today's your first time, I appreciate you guys popping in. Feel free to like, share, comment. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. I appreciate everybody's time, and I'm looking forward to getting back with you guys next week to recap a little bit more Australian Open, a little bit more golf. I'll probably dive in a little bit more towards some F1 stuff because next week we really don't have NFL, guys. We got the Pro Bowl, and the Pro Bowl, in my opinion, is just not what it was. It doesn't really mean anything to me. So probably not even going to dive into it too much. So it'd be more golf, more tennis, more F1, maybe a little bit of baseball, depending on what the news is kind of looking like. And then we'll get ready for the Super Bowl. But guys, with all of that being said, once again, I appreciate you stopping by to the Tailgate Report podcast, and I will catch you guys next week. See you guys.